welcome back to the chair. We're in the final stage of the chair here, final segment. And just before we get back to the panel, Mr. Raymond wanted to add something to that land for the landless issue.
I just wanted to say that there's a lot of discussion now. There was a big discussion about 5 to 6 years ago, and there's a lot of fresh discussion now about the property tax. Whether the government is going to bring it in, whether they're not going to bring it in, whether they're going to bring it in next year, if they win the election and so on. There's a lot of discussion about it, and there's been a little argument about it pretty hot for the last 2 weeks. And I want to put all that in context without getting into a whole technical discussion about property tax. What a modern property tax system would require is a live database that everybody could search of all the property in the country. You would be able to sit at home at 2 o'clock in the morning when you couldn't sleep and turn on your computer and tap a name in somebody had heard about. You say, I wonder if Mr. XM really owns that piece of land next door. And you'd actually be able to see in real time, in relation to concepts like GIS and databases, they'd be able to see who owned the property, how big the land was, how big the building was, what were the facilities of the building, when did they buy it, what did they pay for it, how much tax are they paying on it. All of that wealth of information, that kind of detail, would have to be available online if we have a modern property tax system. And I believe that is the reason that Mr. Manning's proposal for a property tax system, which I supported, was eventually attacked so seriously. Because in fact, somebody earlier used the phrase about land grabbing. I forget which one of you it was used the phrase, and it's a very important phrase. That there is land grabbing going on. And because we don't have a modern system, and this is not to do with the current administration, the one before didn't bring it either. And the one before that and the one before that, since 1992 we've had recommendations to have that. Because we don't have a proper system to see who owns what land, on what terms. It is possible in an unclear situation to have this kind of confusion, which is what we're speaking about most of this discussion.
So can I again?
Sure, I'm finished.
So since the year 2000, we've had a potentially positive integrity commission as a machinery that should ideally be doing good, but has at least recently had a really serious controversy after Emailgate with 2 of the commissioners resigning. Is it, in your opinion, do you think that the Integrity Commission in its current form is or can be useful?
Well, actually my newspaper column that comes out tomorrow is actually entitled, Is the Integrity Commission Showing Willful Blindness in Relation to CL Financial? So tomorrow's newspaper column is actually dealing with exactly this question. And I don't think it's really a question of whether they could or they should. They have to be made to do it. That is their job. Okay, and those of us who have organized ourselves, those of us who are concerned over particular issues, we need to insist that they perform their work. They are getting money to perform a function, and there are substantial things we can do to improve how the Integrity Commission works. For example, I think they spend far too much time looking at declarations which public officials fill out about what property they own and how much money they have in the bank and so on. They've spent far too much time on that, and not enough time looking at areas where there's actually, as far as I'm concerned, and I've written to them on it, there's actually substantial and there's proven corruption. They need to have more resources allocated to investigations and less resources, in my opinion, or less of an emphasis on the declarations. Another example of how impractical they work is this. There was a situation about 1.5 years ago when the then Attorney General, Anand Ramlogan, there was an allegation about him bringing 2 cars into the country and the taxes and so on and so on. The details of the allegation doesn't concern us here. I'm not into the carting too much. But the point is there was an allegation about it, and a report was made to the Integrity Commission, and they were going to investigate the allegation. I think it was 2 Range Rovers or something. Now, they started an investigation of him into this question, and he found out about it. And he wrote them an angry letter to say, well, how could you investigate me without telling me anything? And in fact, the head of the Integrity Commission, which at the time was Mr. Ken Gordon, actually wrote a full-page thing in the papers. I wouldn't say it was a full apology, but more or less saying that yes, it is our practice to tell people when they're being investigated. And in fact, we didn't follow it this time. Now, quite frankly, that is perfectly absurd. If you are a body that's supposed to be concerned in law enforcement, and you get a report that this person has committed a crime, why, in heaven's name, would you go to that person before you go to anybody else and tell them, well, okay, Monday morning, today is Tuesday night, Monday morning, we come in by you 9 o'clock to start to investigate this. Because the people that you're giving that notice to, they are the senior officials who run the departments. They're in charge. So when they get that letter, they're going to say, Charlene, bring this file and this file and this file and this file and this file. And when you get there Monday, there's no file. No wonder they've never caught anybody. It's ridiculous, perfectly ridiculous. You couldn't make it up, Tommy Joseph and sprang along and nothing on it. You'd have to stop that. If you're doing an investigation, you're doing an investigation. Before you make your conclusions, out of fairness, you could give the person a chance to comment. But do your investigation, do your work. Be serious about your work. Could you imagine that kind of courtesy being extended to somebody who's accused of rape or murder? That you're going to go and tell them that young Edward Young made a report and you're going to be coming there tomorrow at 2 o'clock to talk to them. That's ridiculous. The police have to do their work and the Integrity Commission have to do their work too. So there are serious things that need to change inside of there.
Pleasant evening, Mr. Raymond. Christopher Walcott of the International Movement for Change. In this century, right, the Y millennium century, as you know it, you touch on the issue of brain drain in our society, and we as educated youth realize that our society created a framework where A for apple, B for bat, C for see about itself. How can we not just be economical slaves and focus more on social entrepreneurship if we are to mitigate this brain drain issue?
I think there are a lot of ideas that you can do. I mean, I don't have to tell you all what they are. You all are young, brilliant people. You all will know the ideas. There are a lot of ideas you can do to earn an honest dollar yourself. A lot of different things that young people can do. We have extremely brilliant young people, and you all have all kinds of ways to network that people my age don't have. Okay? And you all have lots of ways you can get together. And make sure to make a practice to save. Because all too often you get this situation where somebody is in a position that if happened upon something that's really interesting, really important, they make a certain amount of money and they blow it. It's almost like a national fix, all the way from the government all the way back down. But some of us have to reverse that. Put your money in the credit union, put your money in the unit trust, save your money. And in fact, you may not even know what you're saving it for. But if you don't have savings, you're not going to be in a position when the big opportunity comes along to pull out that checkbook and say, right, well, I want to pay down this money on this. You're not going to have the choice. So you have to activate yourself with your colleagues, associate, whether it is that you all throw parties or whatever the different ventures could be, and save your money. It can't be a situation where you have an association, a partnership, a company, and every month or every quarter, you take all the money off the table, and the company never has any money in the bank. It can't be like that. You have to have the discipline that says, okay, we only take in this much, and we leave in that much in the company. And the company is investing the money. And these are the kind of lessons that need to pass along in terms of how to do things different. They get different outcomes. Okay, that's what I would say.
Good night again, sir. Is there sufficient evidence, in your opinion, that by the time our generation's children reach voting age, they won't inherit a democracy, but an oligarchy?
No, I thought about it a lot. Because it's really a question of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. If you go into it, as I said at the opening sentences, I said about the fact that we have a lot of stuff. We've never had more educated people in the country. We've never had more TV channels. We've never had more radio channels. We've never had more internet and information. Everybody has a smartphone. You've never had more stuff thrown at us in terms of information. But how much do we really know about what's happening in the country? The biggest things take place in secret. The biggest things. So for example, just a wheel back the tape. FCB was selling a certain amount of its shares a little bit a year and something ago. And anybody who tried to buy shares, any normal person who tried to buy shares, they were actually telling you, don't bother to apply for no big set of shares. You can't get more than 1,000. The rules are written that in fact a normal person can't get more than 1,000 shares. That's what the rule said. In fact, what we now know, after a lot of pulling and tugging and fighting and arguing and leaking, is that the CEO of FCB ended up with 225,000 shares. And the guy who lost his job there, I think it's Rahman, he had 650,000 shares. In a situation where the citizens who were being told the share sale was a benefit to the citizens, right? So you were being told this, but what they were really doing was under the covers. And I mean, we still haven't had the full report, so I don't want to say too much more about it. But the point about it is that the real things are taking place off the books. And we need to insist at all turns that our country's business, our business, has to take place in a transparent way. We have to be included in the discussion. We have to have consultation, and so on and so on.
Just as a follow-up to the question of the IPO, I think they're doing another IPO for NGL or NGC.
They're doing something now, yeah. Trinidad and Tobago Natural Gas Limited, yeah.
So as I was listening to a report on the radio, I can't remember what station it was on. I came upon the idea that maybe there should be an income cap beyond which you're disallowed from buying shares in the government organization for the sake of enriching the poorest or the least able in the country. I don't know if that's a...
You see, there's a limit to how much you can make people do things. Eh? What I'm trying to say is that there's a kind of a situation where for somebody who is hard up, the hardest possible thing is to take some money that they don't have to buy something that's going to repay them in 5 years' time. Which is what is the function, to go back to one of my themes about association, which is one of the functions of association, and the reason for you all to become involved not only in money-making things of your own, but things like the credit union movement and savings and loan associations. And those organizations have the clout to step in and buy a huge number of shares that will be held for the benefit of the membership. Trade unions have the same rights and so on. Okay? So I hope that is some...
Yeah, that did help.
All right. So at this time, we have one more question, do we? Okay, so we have one more question at this time, and then that's going to be the end of the show. All right, so final question, and International Movement for Change. All right, fix up.
Okay, good evening again, Mr. Raymond. Just one question out of curiosity. If the PNM government wins the next election and they ask you to be a part of the government, will you accept their offer?
No, I will remain independent.
Okay.
Because you have to have somebody out there to keep them honest. Eh? Because you're always going to have these issues. Eh? I wanted to say that it's been a real pleasure sitting in this chair. I wasn't sure if I'd come in here and find a red chair or a yellow chair. But I found an orange chair. So I guess that's you kind of mix the colors up, you know, to get orange, you know. So after what you all are very crafty, very crafty.
And with that, having said that, but we want to thank Mr. Raymond for coming this evening on such short notice. And of course, I was sitting on the sidelines, and I can tell you, being the host of a morning program along with Abby, I know you all would have certainly noticed Abby there from the white shirt there with the green here. Very, very hard to miss. It's been a very, very informative evening for me. And as we wrap up this evening, I just want to let people know we have one more sitting of the chair that will take place on Thursday. All right, I won't tell you the guest is yet because we still have to confirm. Of course, this is a very hectic week for everybody who is taking part in the electoral process. All right, and their team of campaign managers and people behind them. So it's going to be touch and go. So we're going to get confirmation as we go along. Hopefully by tomorrow on Breaking Dawn, I'll be able to let people know at least something on what's going on, or maybe by Thursday morning. But I want to thank the panel for coming out tonight, and I want to thank Mr. Raymond once again, one of the brightest minds in Trinidad and Tobago. I can tell you guys that. And of course, you all could check out all of his, all of his information that he has there. Is it www.afraraymond.wordpress.com?
Yeah,
all right.
You're welcome.
So You can check it out there. And do look out for the rerun of this episode at 5 o'clock this morning. Nice. 5 o'clock in the morning. Right. Just before breaking dawn. So for the entire team here and Synergy TV, Real TV, we want to say enjoy the rest of the evening. And don't forget to join us on Breaking Dawn tomorrow morning and the next edition of The Chair on Thursday evening at 9 p.m. We'll see you there. Until then, stay safe. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Look, it's politics time again. Are you gonna vote now? This is love and not war. We all shall vote, yeah. If it's Rasta, them talking. Look here, bloodshed from Rima. Down in the valley, got me here, yeah. Question has become a gunman compound. No place for people with citizenship, Lord. Them crying relentlessly, yeah.